push over if you make one more Jersey Shore reference. The last couple of weeks I've been trying to dial in the settings of our autopilot, and then yesterday I talked to the manufacturer. 2 days ago I talked to the manufacturer and they suggested updating the software to the newest version. When I did that, the autopilot like went hard to port, broke the pin off a tiller right here. The boat like swung around. We crash tacked with the jib, started hand steering again. And so yesterday I talked to the manufacturer, and then we figured out that one control box that controls the servo, one of the directions has died on that. They wanted to send us a new part, but we don't have anywhere that we can stay for a couple days and afford to stay there for a couple days, because a lot of these marinas are like $140 a night. We just can't do that. So we're gonna have them ship the part to our house in Maryland that we're heading down to. And unfortunately, we got to change our plans to the New Jersey coast. Instead of doing it in one stop or no stops to the Delaware Bay, we're going to have to hop down the coast instead, because we're going to be hand steering.
I think we would have considered still doing it in one go if we maybe had somebody else with us and we weren't trying to double hand it, because I think that's just a lot. And it being our first overnight and having the dog, there's so many factors here. And without the autopilot, I think it would have been one thing for the autopilot to have broken while we were on passage and us to like make the decision to continue going. But I think that for us to make the decision to try to do it in one swoop, knowing we don't have an autopilot, knowing that the dog isn't really used to ocean, knowing that we're not really used to ocean, I think it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to try to do it in one go. So here we are.
We left New York Harbor early and had great conditions, winds out of the northwest and calm seas. At one point, we even considered continuing through to Atlantic City or Cape May. But when Andy started his watch, winds were 10 knots out of the northwest and seas were less than a foot. An hour later, the wind was blowing 20 to 25 knots out of the south and we were pounding into 6-foot wind waves. We decided it was best to stick to our original plan after all.
Today, after slugging into the seas for God knows how long, it felt like forever, but it was more like
3 hours.
3 hours. Hour and a half of that being miserable. As soon as we got in the inlet, 5 minutes later, and you quit.
In the inlet.
In the inlet.
In the inlet. I don't know if you can see all the boat traffic behind us, but that is the inlet, like literally right behind Andy's shoulder.
This place is a cluster.
It is Labor Day weekend as well, and it was like 4 o'clock on Labor Day, on Sunday on Labor Day.
I believe every person in New Jersey who owns a boat was in this inlet. Flying past us, we just stopped moving.
It died. Oh, and we were bucking a current because we wanted to get out of the seas we've been doing, so we were kind of idiots in that regard. So we were bucking like a 1 knot current?
Like a 1.5 knot outgoing current.
It was bad. It was all bad. We made lots of mistakes yesterday. But the thing that we can fix today is the engine not working.
Yes. It's something to do with the fuel pump, and it's electrical, not mechanical issue, because it's intermittent. And when you mess with the preheat button for whatever reason, it starts working again. So we're going to dig into that, figure out what's going on. I have a suspicion it's either something to do with the ground or something to do with the power feed, because all that stuff is like terminated on like a junction block stuff on the back of the engine. And I'm gonna just kind of give it like a visual inspection, pull in some wires, make sure everything's tight.
And that means going
down in the hole.
Down the hole.
Here's the wires. And you can see. When you see little bits of flaky electrical tape, it's normally a bad sign. So go straight towards that. And that happened. That's the wire that feeds the fuel pump. That's the wire that goes to the fuel pump. And the buzzer, which was also working intermittently. So my plan's to solder this together and heat shrink it so it doesn't come apart again. Because that kind of sucked.
We are about to head out in the New Jersey ICW. And basically because
This is like the most active hurricane season on record, and we also are trying to just keep moving forward. And there's not going to be a good like west or northwest wind window for another potentially 6 days. We still don't even see one on the forecast. So we're going to take our chances to go from Manasquan to Atlantic City via the ICW today. It could be interesting. Bridge-wise, we should be like A-okay, but we're not sure what the bottoming out situation might look like. So we'll see how it goes. And then from Atlantic City, we're gonna go outside to Cape May because we can't do the ICW, and then up the Delaware Bay. So we might be stuck sitting in Atlantic City for a couple days, but it's better than sitting at $120 a night marina. So
Just a little. We're only going like 3 knots, and we're in like less than 2 feet of water.
2 people.
2 people at the keel. Yeah.
Whammy!
The New Jersey ICW is notoriously shallow, so shallow that it's not recommended for boats with more than a 4-foot draft. We draft 4.5 feet. We had 2 chart plotters going, and Andy's face was scrunched in concentration the whole time.
today is Saturday, and we have been in the same place since Tuesday, which I think makes this the world John's record for staying in one place on a boat of all time. So but we're definitely getting antsy to move. The weather's been pretty crap for the last 4 days, which is why we've stayed put. First 2 days we had pretty bad thunderstorms, and it poured. Andy had to bail out the dinghy twice a day. The second 2 days, today and yesterday, it has been very windy. Small craft advisory, which we don't really qualify as a small craft, but just more than what we're really that comfortable with, especially given how technical this next little section is going to be. We are moving today, mostly because the holding tank is full and we both just feel like we need to get moving. So we're moving to the section from here. We're in Surf City, New Jersey, which is on Long Beach Island. So we are moving from here down to Beach Haven, which is just a little bit further south, about 10 miles, and into a marina because there are 0 anchorages, and to get a pump out, get some fuel, get some water, and get us about a third of the way to Atlantic City from here. And part of that is also so that we can have the longest possible high tide options for getting through the shallowest spot, which is from Beach Haven to Atlantic City. So we're excited to be moving again, but also a little nervous because we're probably gonna bump along, but we have fully paid up for unlimited towing from Boat Tow US. So if we ground ourselves, we'll be able to call them to come get us. But we're also going on a rising tide. So everything's in our favor at the moment, and we're just gonna hope for the best. The morning off because we have to wait for high tide, and we have spent last night and today reprovisioning, doing some laundry, eating way too much food because we're near restaurants, and there was donuts this morning. And yeah, so we are having a much better day in New Jersey today, and then we are going to finish our little jaunt on the intercoastal of New Jersey, if you can call it that. Today we are moving from Beach Haven, where we are right now, to Atlantic City, and we're gonna leave at just shy of mid-tide in an attempt to give us the best shot possible of making it through without running aground. So
The section from Beach Haven to Atlantic City was beautiful, but definitely nerve-wracking. We saw currents through Little Egg Inlet of more than 4 knots, and there were sections where we had less than a foot of water below the keel.
we finished the New Jersey ICW. We went all the way from Manasquan Inlet all the way down to Atlantic City, and we are kind of surprised that we did not run aground. In the entire way, we only bumped twice, and it was in the same spot in Point Pleasant. So I think not so bad.
pretty happy to be in Atlantic City, and hopefully tomorrow the weather forecast will make it so we can leave to go to Cape May.
The forecast wasn't perfect, but with favorable winds and large but manageable sea swell, we decided to head out the next morning.
We turned the engine off and we put up the main, double reef main. Kind of because that's the only option right now. But it's a long story.
I was going to say, we only have that as an option.
Turn the engine off, doing the same speed, much more comfortable.
Yeah,
It's quiet.
it is.
Actually going a little faster. We're hitting 6.5 sometimes.
We're surfing down the wind waves and taking the swell on the beam. It's actually, right now it's kind of, they're both coming from opposite stern corners a little bit, but that's not the worst thing. It's not uncomfortable. I think part is that we're beating another sailboat. They had a decent head start and they're like behind us now. So, and they're much bigger, a bigger catch. So they're probably more comfortable than we are right now because they've got their mizzen up. They've just got their mizzen in their jib. So I'm assuming they're more comfortable than we are right now, but they're not going any faster.
It took us 8 hours to get from Atlantic City to Cape May. We were so happy to have the New Jersey coast behind us. It wasn't how we planned it, but we learned a lot. In our next episodes, we're back to boat projects.